real estate investing show where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. And I have a guest with me that I'm sure needs no introduction.
You can introduce me, it's fine.
Mr. Frank Iglesias is one of Atlanta's well-respected investors, coaches, mentors. The list goes on and on and on. Like, tell me if I'm missing out on something. I mean, I want to make sure I give you all the proper accolades that you deserve. First, I want to thank you for being here with me today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so I'll do the best I can. Okay, we got folks that are joining us now. Good stuff. I'll do the best I can, to say all the wonderful things that I have to say about you. If I miss anything, please let me know. But I'll let you tell the folks who you are, what you do, and I'll stick to the part of saying how great you are.
Okay. Well, that's fine. It's okay. So I'm Frank Iglesias. I've met a lot of people here in the Atlanta area. If I haven't met you, I look forward to meeting you soon. And I've been investing in Atlanta now for over a decade. I wear a number of hats. I work with wholesale type deals. We do property renovations. We work with new construction. We do buy and hold, creative finance type deals. So we mess with a wide variety of things, to say the least. And I have a property management arm as well. So we do a little bit of that.
You were doing VAs for a while. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, we still have virtual assistants. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So, and I want to tell you guys where we are today. We are actually in one of, I wish we had somebody to, take us around this fabulous, what can I say about this? I mean, this is a great house.
Well,
it's a great house.
Thank
and
you.
This actually started from just the dirt, right?
Yeah, there was a house here on this land, and we tore it down.
Okay.
And we constructed this thing. So,
yes,
it came out all right.
Yeah, all right. Very nice, very nice. We have Nicole and Beatrice joining us. Hello, thank you all for joining us. So tell me, Frank, you said you've been, that's a good way of putting it. I'm going to have to start using that. I've been doing this for a couple of decades. You said you've been for over a decade.
Over a decade.
How did you get started? Like, what was your inspiration to get started investing in real estate?
So we'd had interest on and on over the years. Like, I think we've all heard the story so many times. Oh, that always sounded fascinating. I used to be an IT professional, and I did that, was completely content, had a great team of people I worked with, great coworkers and so on and so forth, great company. And we just, it started becoming a bit routine.
Yes.
It was a very good team of people. It was great people, actually. Great people, great teamwork, and we became very efficient. And after being efficient for some time, I remember one of my coworkers back then said, we've almost automated ourselves out of a job. And so I was like, well, and along with that, the challenge was sort of disappearing. So we started looking into other things, but it took time. It didn't happen overnight. This probably went on over a span of a couple of years.
I did the IT thing for a while.
You did the IT thing. So, and for most people that leave corporate America, it's usually not an overnight decision.
Right.
Unless they're let go, it's usually not an overnight decision.
Mine was overnight.
Yours was overnight. Okay. Mine was not overnight, so I can't relate to that. But what happened was, somewhere along the way, I got an email to a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar. I don't know who, when, where, how. I don't even know how it ended.
That's usually how it begins.
But I ended up, and it perked my attention. And so, it was the standard go to the 3-hour thing, which then led to the weekend, which led to courses. And, so it was a gradual procession over a couple of years. And as the real estate became more interesting, the IT, it wasn't that IT became less interesting. It just didn't become. It wasn't maintaining its interest.
Right.
Because I remember saying back then, we all have a supercomputer. We just call it an iPhone or an Android phone. But really, we're just walking around with a supercomputer that's making life simpler most of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, most of the time.
Sometimes that's not true. But so that being said, we just gradually transitioned to a point where it just made sense to to make the move, and the rest is history.
So from Rich Dad to now, what was the easiest thing? We'll start there. What was the easiest
thing?
Help with the transition into real estate.
You mean the easiest? Which part was like what made the transition easy?
Yeah. Yes.
The transition part was easy just because I literally just became bored with IT. Again, we were just bored. And when you're with a great company with great people and a great team that does a great job and you're bored, you know it's time for a change.
Yes.
And you realize it wasn't the job, it wasn't the people, it wasn't any of that.
Right.
It was literally just the profession was no longer interesting to me. And
so it was an easy decision.
Yeah, it was fairly easy. I mean, but again, it took a good couple of years to get to that point. Right. And while you're going through it, you don't realize that that's happening. You just start thinking, and then over time, you're like, you kick it around, maybe someday.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next couple of years. Maybe next year. And then you finally reach a point where you're like, okay, it's time.
It's time. It's time. So what was the hardest thing? What's the most difficult thing you had to?
The hardest part was probably the first 6 months after I left IT was realizing, oh, wait.
Wait, there's no check at the end of
this. There's no steady check every 2 weeks. That was the hardest part. And even for the first few months, it wasn't that hard. It was after a few months, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Because, you have savings and you have whatever, and that sustains you for a while, but then you realize, okay, wait, I actually have to do something.
Yes.
And it wasn't that I wasn't doing anything. It was you realized it was just the reality of this is reality now.
Yes.
And to me, that's a bit of an adjustment. So at least for us, it was. So, and I've heard that story said many times where people leave and they'll live off savings or whatever for a while, and then they're like, oh, wait, we got to get going here kind of thing. So, that was probably the hardest part. It's just the beginning of a maturity that comes with that process.
And making the adjustment to now. I mean, like when you said, oh, wait, it's like now I have to really make something happen with this business that I've decided to go into.
Yeah, so, and I think that process of maturation, I don't know that it ever stops. I don't think it does.
Right.
We're always growing. We're always learning.
Yes.
And we're still learning just as much today as we were. It'll be, I left full-time IT 9 years ago.
Wow.
This summer it'll be 9 years.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a long time.
So mine was an overnight decision when they said, "Hey, come here. We need to talk to you for a minute." And the very next day, I started my business.
I don't know that that's necessarily worse. I think it's a shock, but it's almost it's like when somebody says you go to the pool and the water's not warm, but it's not freezing, and you're sitting there. How many of us go, I don't know if I want to jump in?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the little kids, they're not thinking about it. Just jump in. And then they'll swim and get warm. And see, we know that going in.
Yes.
We could jump in, and if we just stay moving, we'll be fine.
Absolutely.
But we won't make. And so I think work is maybe the same way. Sometimes when people get let go, I tell them, I was like, well, start swimming really fast and just keep going. And truthfully, your transition might be easier than mine was.
Wow. That was really, really a good good idea to tell people to keep moving, and it gets easier as you keep moving.
Yeah, just keep moving.
Now that doesn't mean you won't get any bumps and bruises along the way.
Sure.
So so after that, after leaving corporate America, and then getting into the business, what plan did you have in place? So what was the plan? So did you know, like, okay, I got to go buy some houses, or I got to flip some houses? What was the plan that you had when you left?
I don't know if we had a plan. I'm not sure we did. I have to think about that one. What was our plan? I don't know if we had a plan. I think it was the plan. I think it was more just the adventure.
Okay.
I've always been kind of an adventurous type person where it's like, it's a beautiful day outside. Hey, let's just hop in the car and go for a drive. Well, where are you going?
knows?
Wherever.
We'll figure out when we get there.
You know, I mean, if I was in a, you know, if I had less responsibility, I'd be like, this weekend let's fly here, and next weekend we'll fly,
Right,
and just.
right.
So I've always had a little bit of that adventure spirit, but I would say we were doing rentals at the time. We were getting into wholesaling. We liked wholesaling, and that's where we ended up focusing most of our time. We've always done some property renovation to some degree, so that always stayed consistent, doing a couple of remodels and that sort of thing. But we did focus heavy on wholesaling, and that was probably a good 3 years, and that went pretty well. We were happy with the results. In retrospect, I wish we had built that out more, and we're actually moving back toward that direction today.
Got it. So wholesaling, now there's been a lot of talk about wholesaling over the last forever almost, it seems like. Would you say that's a good starting place for somebody that's getting started in the business of real estate?
If you have the personality for it. Or if you're not sure if you have the personality for it, if you're willing to work hard and you have a coachable mindset, then it could be. But there are some people where it's just not for them. Because it is, I tell people wholesaling is a hustle business.
It is.
You got to hustle.
It certainly is, yeah.
Because when you're not getting the deal, someone else is. Just this past week, we were this close to getting a deal, and they ended up going with someone else.
Right.
And that's, I say, that's cool. I don't even, it doesn't even bother any. I submit a backup offer, and I just tell them, look, when they don't close, not if, when they don't close, just call me.
When they don't close.
And I'd say half the time that's about how it goes.
Right.
We're an environment, and so here's the problem with wholesaling. Too many people get into it because they're told it's the easiest way to do real estate, and that is true. Learning the wholesale is not difficult.
Right.
To be effective at it is quite difficult.
Wow.
It is quite difficult. It is, and it takes a lot of hard work,
Yes.
a lot of focus, a lot of tenacity, a lot of just pig-headed stubbornness to be good at it with sustainability.
Absolutely.
And very few people can do that. It's a very small number.
So when you say personality, the things that you just described, would that make up that personality of the person that would be good at wholesaling?
Yeah, you got to be a go-getter.
Yes.
If you're kind of a passive person, please don't litter the landscape. Don't be a wholesaler.
Yeah.
That's not for you. The passive mindset is really geared more for your buy and hold investing. That's an area where you're going to excel because that's what you're naturally geared toward. So we know about the DISC profile, D-I-S-C.
Yes.
If you are a C, a conscientious person, very conservative, more of the analytical data type, wholesaling's not going to be a great fit for you because you're going to talk yourself out of deals.
Definitely.
I know because that used to be me. And I still have a bit of that in me because, again, I was in IT guy 15 years. So I still have some technical in there, but I had to learn, and it took years to learn. I can't have an IT mindset and a hustle mindset. It is a direct conflict.
Right.
And this slowed down my ability to improve at a faster pace.
Got it.
So a D, the dominating personality, that fits great for wholesaling. The I's fit good, the social butterflies, and people love to talk.
Right.
That bottom half, the S's and the C, the S's are the super conservative, don't change anything or my world falls apart mentality.
Yes.
That does not work for wholesaling because wholesaling is constant change.
Absolutely.
So if you're an S or a C, the S's don't like to change, the C's have to overanalyze everything. And those are conflicting with what you need to be a social butterfly. A good wholesaler. Good wholesaler, a more dominating, take charge of the conversation personality. And I, the social aspect, also the aspect that shows empathy. So if you're good on D and I, you'll be a good wholesaler. If you're a strong SC, wholesaling is not for you.
Don't do it. So now we've gotten quite a few of the folks that are in the S&C areas, and they've gotten in. Would you say that a person that doesn't have a hustle mentality, can that be something that could be developed, or is that something that could be taught?
It can be if they're coachable and they're willing to work hard, and not just work hard, but harder than they think is hard.
Yes.
Everybody tells you they'll work hard
Yes.
until they realize it's harder than they thought. And so I'll give you an example.
Everybody's a swimmer until they jump into the deep
Everybody's
end.
a swimmer, right? So I ran a wholesale room. In fact, we're rebooting it this month. We actually rebooted it last fall, but we're going to meet again here in a couple weeks. Well, over the span of a few years, we had something like 800 members or something, whatever it was. So recently we did a look at, I said, print me out everyone that signed up to be a member of this group. It was on Meetup. And I looked and I said, how many of these people do I know by name? And I realized it was a very fascinating exercise. Out of 800 people, yes, it was actually right at 800, I recognized about 80.
Okay.
About 10%. Where's the other 90? Who knows?
Wow.
Now, a few days later, I did another exercise. I looked at 132 deals that came to my inbox from wholesalers. 132. I have a system down where we can analyze these deals literally in seconds.
Yes.
And so I looked at 132, and I don't know, it might have took 20 minutes. It didn't take long at all. You just blow right through it, and you figure out, okay. And these weren't to figure out if they were deals. This was to figure out, of these 132, which ones should I pursue making an offer on?
Right.
To see if it's even worth typing the email or picking up the phone. Of 132, we found 12,
Right.
which comes to 9%.
Yes.
And what I've learned, I'm using those two examples, but I can give you others where what I've learned is for every 10 people that try to wholesale, maybe one will sustain it and make it.
Wow.
And this is not recent, this is something I've seen now over the course of years.
Yes.
So if 100 people decide they're going to be a wholesaler, 1 year from now, if not sooner, you might have 10 still at it.
Wow. So I want to make sure the folks that are watching are getting this in context. And this is actual data.
This is real stuff.
This is not your guessing.
I'm
this
not
is actual
guessing.
data.
This is real data.
And folks don't often get when you talk about, and you know, so because some people will get into it and say, I can do it. You know, I can do it because everybody else is doing it.
Sure.
But when like you said, as you described, the hustle aspect, the personality aspect of it, and when they realize, if they realize it, which is unfortunate in many cases, if they realize that they don't have those traits and those things that it takes to become a good wholesaler, many of them oftentimes say that this doesn't work.
Correct. Real estate's a sham.
Yeah.
It's a fluke.
So
It's all one big scam.
one big scam, right?
When in reality, it probably can work for them.
Okay.
But they just need to be in an aspect that meets their personality type.
Absolutely.
And if they're in an aspect that meets their personality type, and they get coached to someone explain that to them, show them, and then enhance their skill set in the area that would suit them, they would be more successful.
You know, you gave another great point, because oftentimes you have people that want to go online and on YouTube, and they figure they can learn this wholesale business on YouTube.
Of course.
But what doesn't shine through is the person that tells them the different areas of their personality that need to be developed in order to be able to overcome the obstacles that are coming.
Absolutely.
Because they miss that. You know?
Absolutely.
So
wholesaling is not 2 + 2 = 4. Like the transaction is 2 + 2 = 4. It's very
put
simple.
that round peg in a square hole.
But that's what most people do. Most people don't realize you're the round peg or you're the square peg going in the wrong shape hole.
Absolutely.
And that is where and that's why 1 in 10 might succeed.
Wow. Wow.
That's why. It's not that wholesaling is hard, it's you're doing something that may not fit you. That it's just, and that doesn't mean it's bad, because again, depending on your coachability and your desire, you could develop it. Like I said, I was an SC.
Yeah.
I didn't have any dominating personality. My wife would tell you, I didn't talk a whole lot unless I knew people well.
Right.
Now my wife would tell you, yeah, we can put Frank in any room and he'll talk to anybody if he's in the mood.
Yes.
No problem.
Yes.
But that came over time. I didn't start that way. When I left IT, that was not who I was. Now we put me in a room with 1,000 people. Sure, I'll talk to them. You know, there's no public fright or none of that. It's like, yeah, no problem. If I need to take control of a conversation, I can. I can do that. But I didn't used to be that way. And I said, I was an IT person for 15 years, so I still have a little bit of that C-type personality. And I think everybody has a little bit of an S in them, which is we all have something in life where we want to be real conservative and don't want to change.
Right.
We all have a little bit of that.
Would you say that's fear?
It could be fear. It could be. But sometimes it's just comfort.
Yeah.
We all have a thermostat.
Yes.
We all have a thermostat.
Yeah.
And there's just certain things that make us comfortable. I'm from up north. I would never live up north again.
Right.
Because my thermostat is warm weather.
Absolutely.
I think Atlanta's too cold.
Yeah. Actually, well, surprisingly, to the last few days, it's been.
Yeah, it's great. The last few days is great. So, but again, first part of my life, I lived up north. You couldn't pay me to live up north again.
Right.
Because my internal thermostat says, I don't like cold weather unless it's snowing, because then at least it's fun.
Absolutely.
But cold and rain or cold just to be cold, no.
Yeah.
That's not me. That's a very oversimplified example, but you could take that and use it as an analogy to different aspects of your life. And real estate is no different.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the word coachability quite a few times. So would you say a person that had a certain level of coachability, or they were coachable, could develop over time into a great person that can do the business? Sure. So what does that require? So should they have a one-on-one coach? What would you say to a person that doesn't have the traits that they need? How do they get into the position? What type of mentorship should they seek in order to be able to develop?
Well, the first thing, to figure out if you're coachable, the first thing you almost have to ask yourself, what would the best way to say? Are you willing to admit that you're wrong?
Man, that's it right there. That's it. And most of the times, that's when people that are trying to learn something will not admit that they don't know what they don't know.
And here's the thing. Why fight that battle? Like, it doesn't, look at where we're sitting. You know how many mistakes went into building this house? And then I've got a bunch of houses like this. So it's like there's so many, you reach a point where if you get involved in real estate and you're serious and you work with it for a long time, what will happen is you will make so many mistakes that if you're not making a mistake, you get worried.
You wonder if...
you think something's wrong.
Because you're looking for the big mistake to happen now.
Right, exactly. And so it's okay to make a mistake, but see, we don't grow up in school that way. School, if you make mistakes,
don't color outside the line.
You're a cheater, you get a zero, you copied. But in the world of business, everything that you were taught not to do in school is exactly what you do.
Definitely.
You copy, you learn, you model. Every mentor I've heard that's been super successful says it. What do they say? Model the best.
Absolutely.
Don't go figure it out yourself. Just model the best. Find them first. And sometimes finding them is hard.
Yes.
Because there's so many meetings and so many of this. So sometimes finding them is hard. But you find the best, model it. And that's the complete opposite of what we learn in school.
That's true.
So you have to be willing to say, I don't know.
Yes.
Or I'm wrong. And it's okay. Because guess what? If, let's say, you work hard to prove that you're right. Well, you don't get anything for that.
Nothing.
There's no bonus points. So just take the ego, throw it aside, and move on.
Get the beat on your chest maybe for a little while, but nobody's paying attention to that.
It's easy to admit that intellectually, but to internalize that is a shift for people.
Yes.
You have to you can't know it in your head, you have to know it in your gut. And until you know it in your gut, it's just head knowledge.
Wow. That's some major stuff. And I hope you guys are getting this. This is the greatest part of what is not taught in many cases. So we have people that go into learning real estate thinking the first thing they have to learn how to do is do a contract, find the deal, learn how to analyze the deal, run the comps and all that. But I think oftentimes what's missing is what we're talking about right now, is developing the personality.
Yeah, I would say what we're talking about now is 80% of real estate.
80% of it, absolutely.
80-20 rule.
I would the house is
agree. The house, when I talk to some of my network groups, I tell them, yeah, you spend in a 90-minute meeting, you spend 85.7 minutes talking about the house.
Right.
But the house is really only 20%.
It is. It is.
Really, the house part shouldn't be more than like 15, 20 minutes of
That's true.
of a meeting. But we're not conditioned to dig in to the self-analysis, the how I can be better,
Right.
because that's real work. That's the heavy lifting, is working on you. The house is easy.
That's
the
true.
house is inanimate. It's, see, I could slam it. It's
Right.
not mad at
It's
me.
not great.
I could punch it. It's not upset. It's just going to sit there.
Yes. Yes.
It's just an inanimate object.
That is great stuff. That is great stuff. And and see, it's very few of us that think like that. Like I think about, one of the first modules in the things that I teach is mindset. Any of my students that might be watching, the first thing we talk about is mindset, developing the mindset of someone, not just that does this business, somebody that can do this business and sustain the mindset of, like you said, there's going to be mistakes. Yeah. And there's going to be, and I oftentimes say, even doing this as long as we've been doing it, we still have coaches. We still have mentors. We still have people that we're learning from. So to think that you're going to come in, and especially those that, not taking either, there's some YouTube guys that have some good information. But just to think that you're only going to do the best job possible just by watching YouTube videos. There's nothing, you're listening to the video, but you're not getting a chance to ask the question and the video interact and tell you, no, that's wrong. This is the way to go.
That's true.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, and it kills me when I see people say, "Oh, yeah, I've learned it all online."
Yeah.
Well, everything works once.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, let's be real. We've all had those things that worked that had no business working.
Yeah.
We've all experienced that.
So a broken clock is right twice a day. Huh?
Exactly. A broken clock is right twice a day. So there you go. Everything works twice.
Right.
Well, you'll notice no one ever says everything works 3 times.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, the YouTube stuff, and again, it has its place.
Yes. Yes.
It has its place. There is absolutely value in watching a YouTube video and learning specific aspects of specific things. In specific types of situations, or sometimes for some general information, it can work pretty well. However, in no way is that a catch-all. It's not something I would ever recommend. And here's the thing, and this is what I always tell someone learning real estate. Let's say you want to do it all online and figure it out. There's so much data. How do you know who's right?
Wow.
How do you know who's the right person to follow?
Yes.
People are watching us right now. How do they know you're right? How do they know I'm right?
Yeah.
How do you know? You don't. And that's the problem. You don't. There's investors out there that look great on the surface, but they got into trouble. In fact, most successful people I've met have dealt with trouble.
Yes.
Not because they were looking for trouble, but because they made a mistake.
Yeah.
And the question is, not, oh my gosh, the investor made a mistake. It's, how do you recover from it?
How do you recover from it? Yes.
How do you resolve it? How do you get better from it?
Definitely.
Because the reality is, if you're going to do this business, you will make a mistake. You will royally screw something up, and you do have to figure out how to recover from it. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. But that's life. Anybody that says that's not them, you turn around, you run the other way. Because they're not human.
This is true. This is true.
So you got to be careful of who you follow. Anyone that comes to you and has it all figured out is probably not the person you want coaching you. But to bring it back to your point, coachability is simply somebody willing to say, I don't have the answer. And you may not have the answer for months. Right. Sometimes your journey, you're not going to have that answer for a while.
This is true. Yeah.
But you got to be willing to take the journey. For better or for worse. But I'll tell you what one of my coaches said not long ago. I was at an event, and a gentleman said something that I thought was very powerful. And this, from my coaching group. and they were talking about, what holds you back from doing social media marketing was the subject. And so people said different things, and somebody said fear. And he said something that I thought was fantastic. He said, the worst thing you could do is fear failure. I'm sorry, they didn't say fear, they said failure.
Okay.
And they said the worst thing you could fear is failure. And that started, the worst thing you could fear is failure. And then he proceeded to say, and I'm paraphrasing lightly, failure is that one thing that propels you forward the most.
Absolutely. Great stuff, man. And I oftentimes, and I have to say, being from IT, I struggled with making mistakes because, in the IT world, we get this idea that everything is just ones and zeros. And if it's not adding up as ones and zeros, it's something that you're doing right. It's not the actual system. It's something that you're doing right. You're not doing right. And so for a little while, I struggled with that, with making mistakes in doing real estate. And I had to reflect back when I got started, even from, waking up in the middle of the night and watching that Carlton Cheese commercial in the middle of the night.
We know about that.
Right.
I think everybody knows.
It was a long time ago. That even in the pursuit of trying to get the course, of course I didn't have the money, and I asked several different people. Once I finally got it, and I asked different people to help me with it, I realized that, and one person said, well, just give me the course and I'll learn it and then we can work together. And I said, well, wait a minute, why would I do that? Why don't I just teach you what I've already learned and we work together? And then I was thinking, like, maybe I didn't. I had a little bit of doubt, like maybe I didn't learn as much as I needed to learn to be able to show them what and thinking about the mistakes that I could have made. So I studied it for another year before I went and even tried to pursue someone to help me. And I think a lot of times people get caught in the fear of failure and not even giving themselves a chance to try something.
Well, it's a legitimate fear. You're buying an asset that has lots of zeros on the end. It might have 4 zeros or 5 zeros. It could even have 6 zeros in more extreme situations. Unless you're in the Bay Area where 6 zeros is not, over there. It's a shack over there. So and it's interesting. I was in the Bay Area for a mastermind a year or so ago, and they talked about $1 million deals like we talked about $50,000 deals.
Right.
So that was fascinating. It's like but that's their $50,000 deal. It's $1 million. So
it's all mindset.
It's mindset, perspective, and so that being said, you're talking about an asset class that if you make a mistake, it can be scary. And that's a healthy fear. I mean, it's it's okay to have a little bit of fear of, hey, if I mess this up, this is a $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 deal. But at the end of the day, you just have to keep in mind, it's just a house, it's just a deal, and quite honestly, it's still just money, and money can be recreated. And, money can be recovered, money can be resolved, and what goes wrong is sometimes you get involved with people that if the money goes away, they go into all-out panic meltdown mode. And then drama kicks in. And, we're in a society today that seems to thrive on drama. And the problem is those things, and again, we're not trying to discount that, if there's an issue, it's a $100,000 issue, it's still not a light issue.
Right.
But it's not getting hit by a car. It's not being in the emergency room. Even if it's a large situation, you still have to keep it in perspective. Not let the emotion go crazy. Keep the drama out of it. Because once emotion and drama get kicked in, logic goes out the door. And what happens? It ends up being 100 times worse than it is.
Definitely.
And a lot of energy gets spent resolving a problem that, if we just stayed logical, would have been here. But now it's a mountain, but really it could have been resolved here.
Yes.
And the reason these things happen is because you are working with people, and people have different thresholds. They have different degrees of risk they're willing to tolerate. They have, and again, this goes back to personality type. If you don't have the personality type, if you're a strong S, that's probably the hardest place in many times to be in real estate, because you're looking for the most certainty.
Yes.
And real estate is anything but certain.
Anything but certain.
It doesn't matter which of the avenues you pick,
Right.
something can and will go wrong.
Absolutely.
And that's, it's just a matter of how likely it'll go wrong. You could have the most passive investment in the world and something still go wrong. I'll give you one example. A tax lien investor. It's supposed to be the simplest thing in the world. And let's face it, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like wholesaling, super simple. Gentleman, he bought a tax lien on a property, and he was expecting to make XYZ number of dollars on this project. And unfortunately, when it was time to cash in, the property had not appreciated, so on and so forth. There were some more factors involved, and I'm going to skip all that to say the punchline was he had to make a choice on whether he was going to sell this property. Hold out for the return you want, or accept, I want to say it was about $15,000 less, and get rid of it now.
Wow.
It was supposed to be guaranteed income. Guess what? It didn't happen.
Really? Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Did he do anything wrong? No.
No.
He didn't do anything wrong. It was just a mix of it was a unique scenario mixed with this specific property with these other circumstances. And again, I'm speaking general because I don't want to be disclosing personal information.
No, I get it.
But and that's just how it went down. And so even in the most quote unquote risk-free scenarios, life happens. And so the key isn't, oh my gosh, I got into this assuming this would happen and it didn't, woe is me, go blame everyone else.
Right.
No, it's, you took a risk. At the end of the day, it's called real estate investing. And there is no such thing as a risk-free investment.
It's called real life.
Real life investing. That's correct. Not risk-free investing, real life investing.
Definitely.
And when you invest, there is always risk. You do your best to mitigate it. And if it works like the commercial, fantastic.
Right.
And a lot of times it does.
Yes.
But sometimes it doesn't. So the key, it goes back to the coachability. Are you willing to accept that A, you may have made a mistake in assessing the risk, or B, sometimes freak things just happen. And at that point, the conversation shifts to, what are you going to do about it? What is the meaning you're going to give to that event?
Definitely.
But if you give it the right meaning, you'll recover from it and be better. If you put the blame hat on, nobody wins when you blame.
Wow.
I've never seen anybody said, man, I blame somebody and my life was better for it. Wow. I've never heard that statement said. It just never happens.
Especially when it's everybody else's fault. A lot of times, and everything that I've learned and lessons that once we learn to take responsibility, things get a whole lot easier.
It's so much simpler.
Yeah.
I tell people the fastest way to make your life easier, and keep in mind, easier does not mean easy.
Yes.
It just means easier, is to assume that you're responsible for 100% of your life.
Absolutely.
Even the things that you don't feel you should be in the middle of. I mean, I'm dealing with a couple of things right now. And I could easily play the blame game. I'm sure you're dealing with stuff where you could play the blame game. We can all do it.
It would be easier if I pointed the finger at somebody else.
It would be much simpler.
But that doesn't solve it for me, though.
It doesn't. And at the end of the day, you don't get any fulfillment from it.
Definitely.
And you don't get fulfillment. Fulfillment and growth go hand in hand, and you can't blame and grow.
Absolutely.
Those are two budding principles right there.
Wow.
So, and the great thing about real estate is that you do have the opportunity to do a lot of things that can move you forward in life. The bad thing about real estate on the surface is you can make some mistakes that can cost you a lot of money and time. However, if you choose to grow from those things that are pain in the beginning can become your greatest assets moving forward. Hence why I say the statement was shared last week. The worst thing you could fear is failure.
Absolutely.
In fact, my coach would tell you, do as much as you can and fail as many times as you can, because you only need one to hit to change your life.
Absolutely. One of our guests, Troy Durrett, says, to double the chance of success, double the chance of failure. Wow. Now, I don't think we go intentionally to fail. We don't intend to fail, but if we, doing nothing is the easiest way not to fail.
But then you're still failing.
Then you're still failing.
Because you failed to try.
Definitely. Wow.
and I've never met someone, and I've never heard of anyone that was satisfied by failing to try.
Wow. So, man, we've talked about a whole lot of stuff. We talked about real estate. We talked about life. We covered so much, but we never even got into talking about a house.
I was about to say, we haven't even talked about a house yet.
But listen, all of and you said it already. All of this, you said how the conversation should go is 85.7%
Something like that.
of the time should be spent talking about the mindset and mentality and the personality and all that. And the other 15% should be talking about a house. Yeah. Talking about a house. And I have to agree, because oftentimes we get lost in a deal. Yeah. And all of us have this perception of what a deal is. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I've come to understand as a real estate investor, I'm a deal maker. So my personality mindset shows me, even if it doesn't on the surface look like it's a deal for someone. And I can negotiate and work it out to where somehow it would work. But it takes having the mindset and the personality to be able to do that.
So this is a huge problem, not only with investors, but with retail as well. On the investment side, we'll sit here and trade emails, and a very common example that you hear all the time is, here's an asset that fixed up is worth, say, $250,000.
Yeah.
We'll just pick a number. And one person says, I need to put $50,000 into it to make it worth $250,000. The next person says, I have to put $70,000. And who's right? Well, they're probably both right, depending on their knowledge, their skill set, their experience, and what they desire to put in there, because they have different viewpoints.
Right.
Those kinds of things are okay. Now, it's not okay when you have people that put out silly stuff, where you get a fire damaged house and it says, $20,000 to fix a fire damaged house. I saw that recently, and it's like, that's just poor education. That's just that person that needs someone to take them, and they need to be coachable and have someone take them under their wing.
I'm always curious where they come up with those numbers.
Well, it comes from YouTube. But I don't know which video, but there's a million of them out there. There's probably one. But again, that is the product, oftentimes, of free education. Because most wholesale courses.
Can you say that again? I want to make sure folks have heard that. That's the product of free education. What's the product of free education again?
When you get a lot of nonsense. when you go and learn everything on YouTube only, you're probably going to deal with. And again, you might be the exception. The problem is everybody thinks they're that one exception.
Absolutely.
And the reality is you're not. The odds are highly against you that you'll be that one person. You could be. You never say never, but the odds are against you. And so there's plenty of. I'm writing a wholesale course now. There's plenty of wholesale courses out there.
Yes.
But I've never seen a wholesale course that teaches nonsense.
Wow.
Now, not to say that there isn't any out there. I haven't read every one of them by any stretch. But all the ones I've seen over the years generally teach the same principles. And it's content to where, well, if you actually go through the entire course, not just chapter 1, the entire course, and you follow through, then and your personality lines up, you'll be okay, and it'll be fine. And it works, and you'll be the guy saying, this works, and you're the testimonial, and so on and so forth. And nothing wrong with any of that. But if you don't go through that, then that's where the nonsense comes in. And that's where the problem is. So you get a lot of deals where there's nonsensical stuff. The same thing happens in agent circles with selling retail property. A homeowner will come into a house with their agent to look at it, and they will be interested. At least we hope they're interested. They showed up.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't read the listing, but we're not going to get into that. So sometimes you wonder why they showed up. You're like, did you read the listing? Did you look at the pictures?
Right.
But again, that's okay. That's okay. And they may have just been driving by. Who knows? So always give the benefit of the doubt. And so they'll look at a property, and they will sincerely be interested, but they will not like an aspect of the house. It doesn't matter what it is, large or small. And in my opinion, that should be normal. I mean, what are the odds that you're going to build a house that fits somebody perfectly every time?
Right.
We're in Atlanta. There's almost 6 million people. What are the odds that you're going to find something that's just right for that one person? No changes, no tweaks.
Right.
It's pretty hard to do. It could happen, but it's rare. Most time when I sell a house, if I go back to it, inevitably there's always something changed.
Right.
Okay, they made it their own. Totally normal.
Yeah.
The problem is, as a real estate agent representing a client, if there's a sincere interest, I would argue a lot of times instead of pursuing, hey, let's see if we can put a deal together and make some tweaks, adjustments, they don't do anything. They don't make an offer.
Wow.
And I'm like, just make the offer.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, the seller's going to get offended. They're not going to die.
No.
And I think as investors, now let's flip the coin. As investors, could it be that the lack of education is the reason that when an investor is a seller, that they would be offended in the first place? Remember, you're an investor.
Right.
So there really shouldn't be much emotional connection to your product.
Absolutely.
And now if you did all the work
My
yourself,
goodness.
you might have more emotional connection, but you got to learn to disassociate.
Right.
You got to disassociate. At the end of the day, the buyer's not seeing it as the seller's house. They're looking at it as it's their house. So if they say they want you to change all the light fixtures, okay, cool. Then just negotiate on that.
Right.
Just negotiate on it. And I think what happens is, in my opinion, tons of transactions do not happen because sellers and their agents and buyers and their agents do not get together in a group huddle and have a real conversation.
And just talk about it.
Just talk about it. There's none of this going around each other. Just agent, seller, buyer. Get around the table. That's what we do as investors.
Absolutely.
We talk direct all the time.
Yes,
And guess
yes.
what? Deals get done.
Right.
And so one of the things I've learned is there's nothing wrong with agents working deals out. That's what they're there for. But whenever you have principals in the room with them, in my opinion, more gets done 10 times out of 10.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, the principals are the one making the final decision. And so if you can have that open dialogue with everyone in the room, I've never seen that not work. Or you can have that conversation and you might come to the conclusion where, well, you know what, this one, it may just not be a fit.
Right.
But then everybody feels okay with it because everyone's like on the same page.
Everybody had an opportunity
Yeah.
to talk about it,
Yeah.
make it make sense to them in some areas.
I have to wonder how many more deals would get done if we just changed our approach a little bit to open conversation.
That goes back to the personality. Just like you said, it goes back to the personality. I mean, when I talk about being a deal maker, oftentimes I've made offers to other investors, but we'll say wholesalers. And some of them, will say that they weren't as experienced, is what I'll say. And they got emotionally, it was like I offended them with the offer that I made. And I'm like, well, what's your counter? Oh, well, one guy, actually, he didn't even want to talk to me anymore. I'm like, I made you an offer, so we're
counter.
Yeah, just counter. I mean, you don't have to be emotionally.
Counter full price if you want. It's fine. There's no room for, in my opinion, there's no room for being offended in investing.
Right.
That's just my opinion. Someone may disagree, that's fine. We agree to disagree. But that's my opinion. Again, you're not personally living there. if this is a true investment, and we learned in investing school always that never fall in love with your investment.
Definitely.
Ever. I mean, we're in this beautiful house right now.
And, I really want to talk about this.
And somebody says, you know what, I don't like this light fixture. I think this would look better if it was XYZ. Okay. Tell me what you want, and we'll see if we can change it and make it work.
Yes.
If it's it's one of those where I would look at it as a seller and say, okay, if you want XYZ light fixture, what does XYZ cost versus this? If it's an even swap, I can just reuse this in another house, no problem.
Absolutely.
If it costs less, great. Then it's the same solution. What if it costs twice as much? Then I go to the buyer and say, look, I'll credit you for what I paid for this, as long as you pay the upcharge on the new. Is that fair? And guess what? I've done that before, and it's done. And you know what? I've actually had where something that simple was the difference in whether a deal got done or not.
Wow.
That's why I was talking about with the agents. I think that opportunity gets lost far too often, and more deals. So instead of driving around looking at 30 houses, maybe look at the 3 or 4 that you really like and sit down and have a conversation.
Wow.
I think more would get done.
So I think you need to be the world's coach.
I just want to do deals. And to me, whether it's an agent or not, because let's face it, all right, so let's remove the word agent, and let's say it's all just investors.
Right.
And the buyer is investor and spouse, and the seller might be investor and business partner.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Same scenario.
Same scenario.
Yeah.
All we do is we took the word agent out of it, but you might have, or let's say it's just business partners on both sides. The spouse might be, that tends to personalize potentially, depending on that relationship. Yeah. But let's say you just have 2 sets of business partners. This is not unusual. And they may have differing opinions on both sides of the table.
Right.
And so that's where, again, open conversation solves a great, and we all know the phrase, 2 heads are better than 1.
Definitely.
And negotiation is it's no different. There's, you get so much more done. I mean, you're not there to give away the farm or anything, but it's simply a matter of what are the objections because both sides will have objections to each other. What are the objections? Can they be worked out? And now putting the deal together is nothing more than an exercise in problem solving. And again, if you go into it knowing, hey, we're going to give this a shot, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But at least everybody knows, hey, we gave it our shot. If it doesn't work, it's okay.
Nobody died.
Nobody died.
I was laughing. I was telling somebody about the situations that I dealt with last day. I said, but did you die? Like, you're right. I'm still here.
No, and that's the perspective.
Yeah.
And when it is so much, what's the best way to say it? As I'm looking at the camera, I would say this. You will be amazed at how much more effective you are when you leave emotion at the door.
Wow.
When you can truly separate yourself from the emotion, your effectiveness skyrockets. Wow. I can't think of a single time where I've been ineffective that emotion wasn't involved.
Wow.
And let's face it, we're human. It's not, and again, it's not easy.
Right.
Because we're human. But even this morning, I said to myself, I literally said to myself, okay, I can't remember the exact phrase now, but I was essentially telling myself, do not be negative under any circumstance.
Right.
I must have said it to myself 100 times. Because I woke up thinking about this one deal. Yes, that's strange. I woke up thinking about a deal.
Not as strange as you think for some of us, though.
right. And I was like, man, why is this deal not? Why is this? It was like one of the houses I had. Why is this house not sold? And I had to say to myself, when I say, why is this house not sold, I'm feeding negativity. I'm feeding the emotion.
Right.
And that is keeping me from actually thinking about what can I do to solve this house.
Wow.
Not solve, sell the house.
Yeah.
And you got to really work hard at your mindset to keep your mind nimble, loose, light, free, so that it's at its optimal ability to solve problems.
It's funny. I was listening to. I'm an avid Audible book listener. I was listening to. I can't remember what's the author's name. Anyway, I was listening to a book this morning, and he was talking about how a lot of the things that we want to accomplish are tied to our own self-discipline, and how, and in many ways, self-discipline, being able to control our emotions and things like that, helps with being able to accomplish a whole lot more as opposed to not having self-discipline.
You know what someone said to me the other day?
What's that?
Well, not me specifically, but in a session I was in. Discipline is not the enemy of enthusiasm.
Wow.
I think that's worth saying. Yeah, discipline is not the enemy of enthusiasm.
Right. Yeah.
But again, we grow up. Discipline is.
Yes.
You got in trouble, go to your room,
Calm
you're grounded,
down,
whatever. You then get a job. Oh, if you're fired, you're not going to get a pay raise. Whatever. And so we're conditioned that discipline is not always a positive.
Right.
But if you can understand, discipline can be a tremendous asset.
Definitely. Wow.
It doesn't have to be something that's done without enthusiasm.
Great stuff.
I shared this with one of my networking groups. One of my coaches said something I never forgot a few months ago. He said one of the secrets of life is stop fighting life.
So listen, we're going to have to start charging y'all to watch this show, especially when we have folks like Frank come on dropping the major gems that he's dropping. Say it again.
So, and this was a gentleman, his name's George Ross, which you see him on The Apprentice and whatnot. So he was Trump's lawyer for 47 years. So I had the opportunity to sit in a room with him and hear him speak. And as he was sharing, he just said that was one of the secrets to life. Was just stop fighting life.
Stop fighting life. Wow.
Just stop fighting it.
Amazing stuff.
And it hit me because if you think about it, it's such a simple statement.
It is.
And
but it's so profound, though.
But isn't that so many of the things that make us effective, though, are simple. Just keep it simple.
Yes.
And the simpler things are, guess what else happens when things are simple? Now your mind is freed up to be more agile. Your mind is freed up to adapt. When something crazy happens, you're in a much better place to adjust. How many times have you had a problem and you sweated like bullets, you stressed out, you banged your head against the wall, and the answer was simple. And not only was it simple, it was right under your nose the whole time.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of those situations happen.
Yeah,
like, what am I doing? Why don't I do this? Like, wait a minute.
Well, when you don't fight life,
yeah,
everything becomes simpler. I was reading another book. It was from one of the Stoic philosophers. What's the guy's name? Ryan Holiday, I think. He wrote Ego is the Enemy. He had another book called The Obstacle is the Way. Cool book. Really cool book. So if you haven't read it, Ego is the Enemy, Obstacle is the Way. I believe the author's name is Ryan Holiday. Buy it on Amazon. Amazing books. And one of the things he said that I thought was fascinating, really it kind of goes with stop fighting life. It's the same concept. That whenever an event happens, it's the event. So for example, we're building this house. We'll tie it to real estate so we can say we talked about houses for a minute.
So we did talk about real estate.
Let's say we were putting up these LVLs and let's say, and I'm just making up a scenario because it's not true, but let's say it was. Let's say they just nailed it together with the wrong nail pattern.
Okay.
And you walked in and you're like, hey, they're not nailed together. So that's the event. You discovering that your contractor nailed LVLs together wrong or incorrectly.
Do they
event.
Nail them together? Aren't they supposed to be screwed together?
You can do both, depending on the scenario.
Okay.
So they don't teach you on YouTube.
Right.
So, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
No,
actually, not really, but that's another story.
That's another.
We're not going in the builder class today. So, but no, in all seriousness, so you walk. That's the event. You walk in, and you happen to know the nail pattern, you have a drawing or whatever, so you know I expect it to look like this.
Right, yes.
And maybe it's like this. So it's wrong, there's not enough nails, whatever the reason. So you're looking and say your contractor did it wrong. So that is the event. You discovering that the contractor did something incorrectly. You don't even know why yet. He's not there. You don't know any reasons. All you know is he did it wrong. And you have documented a document that illustrates that you know you're right.
Right.
Okay? We call that the event. Now,
Teachable moment.
that next moment is the most important moment in any conversation. Because in that moment, you will make a decision. Not if, you will make a decision. And that decision you're going to make is how you're going to respond.
Right.
You're always going to you just naturally will respond. The only question is how.
Right.
And so, if we react to emotion and how so many times we're conditioned, what is that typical response?
Frustration.
Anger, fury.
Yeah.
You might say some choice words.
Yeah.
You might pick up the phone without thinking.
Yeah.
You might start yelling at who knows? But it's usually not something positive.
Right.
Or, in that same moment, you can pause and not give in to the natural reaction. Here's the event, pause. Okay, how can I respond to this in a positive way? Diffuse the emotion immediately.
Wow.
Just diffuse it immediately. And maybe that moment takes 5 minutes because you're mad.
Yes.
But it's like, before you say anything, cool down, let your head go, come back to, filter the emotion out of you. Now respond from a level-headed perspective. Say, hey, Mr. Contractor, I was just noticing this. And maybe the right way to start the conversation is, I was noticing the nail pattern doesn't line up with my documentation. Was there a reason you chose to do it that way? Because my engineer says it's supposed to be. Said this is what's recommended by the manufacturer, but maybe there's another way to do it. Can you. Now the contractor doesn't feel like you cut his head off.
Right.
And you're at least giving them the opportunity. Now they may just deny the whole thing. they might play you don't know how they're going to respond.
You don't know how educational this is right now.
But and they may still feel like they're being attacked, but you did everything you could to have the conversation in a calm, educated, informative manner that is not attacking. Now let's face it, some people are really weak. And if you say boo to them, they feel like you attack them.
Yes.
and that's when you know that's not the person you need to be working with.
Absolutely.
But the reality is most people are not weak little feeble things. People a lot of times people are stronger and they realize they just don't exercise that muscle.
Absolutely.
And so it's okay if you have to be the one to move that conversation forward in that manner. That says, look, and I deal with dramatic people all the time, and 9 times out of 10 there's no need for the drama, and maybe you just have to let them be dramatic and let them filter out the drama outwardly, and you're just, don't be the victim and be like, I'm the punching bag. No, be proactive and say, I'm the listener.
Yes.
I'm the listener. Let them get it out, and now you have the opportunity to still help them by being empathetic.
Right.
And that's the problem, is too many times people dig their heels in, and that becomes problematic. But it can all be solved, and I don't want to say solved 100% of the time, but I would say 9 out of 10 times this will help. Here's the event. Don't respond. Think. How should I respond? What does this event mean? How can I use what initially is a negative and move it forward into a positive?
Nobody should be calling that phone right now, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail.
Yeah, they'll leave a voicemail.
That's right.
But I want to say, I thank you for sharing that, because there have been several situations. One in particular that I do recall that the situation happened, and I did the same thing. I said, well, tell me what your thoughts are about what you've done.
Sure.
And of course, like you said, many times they'll respond in, I didn't do anything wrong. And I said to myself, okay. And this is a person that, when we hire people, we think they know what they're doing. And we give them an opportunity to say, okay, if this were a different scenario, forget this one. This one is fine. If this were a different scenario, how would you have done this differently? And you still give an opportunity to respond in a way that might make a little bit of sense. And the experience was, I still didn't do anything wrong. I'm like, how do you not see that?
Well, and absolutely that happens. And it goes back to, how do you know if someone's coachable?
You're right.
And it's when someone is always saying they didn't do something wrong, you know they're wrong. 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Because the person that can't admit they're wrong will always be wrong. I asked a question in an interview once that I conducted many years ago. I always ask this question. So if you ever work for me, then I'll ask you this question.
Right.
Is what is your greatest failure? And how did you respond? And someone once said to me, I can't think of a time that I had a great failure. Wow. So what did Frank say? You're not hired. Now, I didn't say it that way.
Thank you for stopping by.
But I mean, that was all I needed to know.
Yeah.
Had great, had a good work ethic, this, that, but look, it just, I want the people that are absolutely comfortable with saying, I made a mistake, let's move on.
Because we all make mistakes.
But the reality is the number of people that are comfortable saying they made a mistake is a number, and I don't know what the ratio is, but I do know there's not enough of it.
Not enough of it. This is true.
There's not enough of it. I just did a closing the other day, literally just a few days ago. The attorney literally told me two different things. It's in an email chain. It's right there. Like Frank doesn't have to say anything. It's right. You said it. It's in the email. Reference this one. You'll notice you're telling me to. And I said, look, I don't really care which way you want to go. I just need you to tell me A or B. Just pick one.
Right.
And so, and I wanted it in writing.
Oh, yeah.
So what did I get next? Do you know what I got next? Was it an email? No.
No.
They called the office. Now, I was on a call, so my assistant took the call. And it's not my first rodeo with attorneys, so, and because again, I hire them all the time. Correct. I know how you all think. And so, so my assistant said, well, she didn't want to go back and forth, but she was tired of going back and forth in email. And I was like, there's no need for back and forth. It's just, I laid out the two options. Just pick one. I have no partiality to either one.
Right.
Just tell me what you want so that I can instruct my staff on what to do next. That's all I'm asking for.
And I don't want to document, this is what the attorney probably said, I don't want to document me saying that I was wrong.
Exactly. So if you ever work with attorneys and you find out and you know you're right and they're wrong, this is how you will know if they're a good attorney. They will admit they made a mistake.
Yes.
And when you come across one that will not admit that, in particular in writing, don't work with them.
A couple folks I want to give a shout out. Actually, Deonna Britt. Hello, Deonna. Deonna says hi, Glenn and Frank.
We know
or
her.
Frank and Glenn. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello, Deonna.
Hello.
Thanks for watching. Mike. I can never say Mike's last name. Ibekwe. Michael Ibekwe. He says, Frank, do you still do transactional funding?
We do from time to time, yes. Right now we're trying to just, sell off a ton of assets so we could spend more time in that space. But on and off we do. It's just a timing thing. I always tell people, ask. If we're in a position to do it, we'll absolutely do it. So it just depends.
Okay, good. And I want to, actually, we're a little over our time, but that's okay. I want to give anyone that's still watching, you want to take some questions?
Sure.
Anyone that's still watching, I know we covered a number of different things, and we didn't get into specifics of analyzing deals and all those kind of things. But I think we covered some good stuff here today.
We can talk about
Some
square
great
feet.
stuff.
And
Yeah, square feet,
too.
bed, bath, all that.
We can talk about the 20%. It's cool.
Right.
It's all good. No problem.
But if anyone that's watching has any questions or anything that you want to throw out there, go ahead and put it in the comments. We'll answer a couple questions before we get off.
I have a
But
question.
yes,
So my question is, as you're doing this show to help people, which is clearly a value add to people, where do you see this evolving to?
the show. That's a good question. I need to have you come on and interview me.
I'm just curious.
Well, the initial idea was to spotlight other investors in the Atlanta area. That was the idea that I had when I started this almost 3 years ago. Okay. And it grew to something beyond, what I even thought it was going to be. And ultimately then it grew into just sharing information. And so many people that came on the show had such knowledge, such as yourself, which our show is long overdue. We should have done this a long time ago. I see us doing it again real soon.
Okay.
We need to do a part 2 or 3 to this.
That's all right.
But then it grew into sharing information because, it would be people I would see from different areas of the country that actually watched the show. And they were inspired by, first of all, the sharing of the information, and they learned a lot. So I guess where I see this going is to continue to add value and continue to shine the light on the things that we should be paying the most attention to in what we do. Not just as real estate investors, but as people who do business and understanding that what we do as real estate investors is a business.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think a lot of times people miss when we talk about wholesaling, and that being one of the first rungs of getting started in investing in real estate, I don't know that people appreciate that part of the business as much as they should, because it's so many people that get in and they just see the idea of being able to make money the easy way.
The YouTube way.
Right, the YouTube way, right?
The YouTube way. I'm just kidding.
And
it's just fun to say.
But they don't look at the work that you mentioned, the work, the personality, the hustle, all that goes into having to make something happen.
So that's a really great point. And what I will tell you is I'm a huge believer in coaching because I know what it's like to do business without it.
Absolutely.
And, if I had a regret, and I would tell you, if you're investing, you need a coach, period. The end.
Period.
Should not even be a discussion point. And I'll give you an example, and I'll tell you how this ties into business. I had the opportunity to be coached by one of the best wholesalers in the country several years ago. We're talking 2010, 11. And I didn't do it. And easily, if I could say what was my number one regret, I'd say that would be it. That was the number one regret.
Wow.
I only have 2 real regrets in this business. We won't get into the other one, but that would be the first one.
Right.
Was because had I done that, everything would have been very different. Now, to what degree, we'll never know. Who knows?
Right.
But when I look at where he is today versus where I am, I'm like, wow, I had the opportunity to be on that train.
Yeah.
And I didn't take it. So when you have the opportunity to be coached by someone that has a lot of experience, and also make sure when you get coached by someone that has a coach. Make sure your coach has coaches.
Wow.
That's very important. So
yes.
It's going to help you immensely. The dollar amount you pay is small compared to what you will gain.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, before you go let me just finish the point. But then what happens as we evolved, we learned we always had real estate coaching, and then I started learning stuff from the Tony Robbins School way of thinking, which is like personal development, and that's all fantastic.
Yes.
But then I learned something was missing, and I didn't realize it was missing until too late. And that was the concept of business coaching.
Right.
And there is absolutely a difference between real estate coaching and business coaching.
Absolutely.
And The business coaching has maybe been the biggest shift we've had in recent months.
Wow.
And I literally, I say to myself now, had I had my business coaching even 2 years ago, we would look radically different than we will today.
Wow.
Now, and again, are we willing to say we made a mistake? I'm willing to say, hey, I made a mistake by not seeking out this type of coaching.
Right.
But then you can't beat yourself up too much, because my perspective was, well, I've got a coach, I've got a real estate coach. But that really wasn't what I needed.
Right.
Again, what I really needed was business coaching. And sometimes you just don't know what you need until you've messed something up. And that's essentially what happened. Like, looking back, I could beat myself up and say, oh, I wish I'd had that. But 2 years ago, I didn't know I needed the guy that I hired today.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I hired a marketing coach last year, and I have to say it changed my business like instantly, almost overnight.
Yeah.
Just learning how to market.
Yeah,
and how
absolutely.
important it. I mean, I've heard it. I've been through the whole thing. I listened to certain things, but when he showed me some of the areas that I was missing in terms of sharing with people what I do and how I can help, I was like, wow. I mean, it turned my business around immensely.
Absolutely.
And as you mentioned, business coaching, that's the area that I know I need to get back into. I had a little bit of business coaching some time ago, but I never had things that are specific to only growing the business. You know what I mean? Yeah. Most of my real estate coaching, most of my business coaching has been real estate coaching. So I have several different real estate coaches, but and the marketing coach just complemented the real estate coaching. But I still need to get specific about the business coaching.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And knowing what you don't know.
When we got into doing more new construction and started scaling that, it's funny how our brain, again, the answer's under your nose and you don't even realize it. We're human.
Yeah.
Let's face it, don't fear failure, because that's the fastest way you're going to learn. Our failure, for lack of a better term, was when we started doing a bunch of new construction. I realized, I would say, wait a minute. And people would call and say, Frank, how are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm good. What's up? I said, well, I don't feel like an investor anymore. I feel like I'm running a business.
Wow.
I even would say that. I said, I feel like I'm running a business more than I feel like an investor. But it didn't click in my head right away. You should go get a business coach. You see what I'm saying? A perfect example that I can, that was me, where I was like, the answer's coming out of my own lips.
Yes.
That I should be hearing, but it took time before I really heard it.
Absolutely.
I wasn't trying to ignore it or suppress it. To me, it was almost like a joke. It was like, oh, well, I'm not really being an investor. I'm being a businessman, because I feel like all I do is deal with business-related things, trying to build these houses. I don't get to do much investing, which is my real passion.
Right.
But then I realized, oh, wait, maybe we should go get a coach in business. Hey, that's a pretty good idea. Why don't we do that?
Yes.
And as soon as I hired him, everything started changing pretty rapidly. And now, our business, we're back to being investors. And my passion is really, I love wholesaling. I love cash flow. I'm okay with construction. It's fun. It's nice. But managing our own construction, that's not our passion.
Right.
Being a builder, that's not my passion. This is a gorgeous house. We love this house. But being in the thick and thin of every decision to build another one of these, that's not my passion.
Right. Yeah.
I like it, and I love showing people, hey, look at what we built. It's beautiful, and it is beautiful, and we're proud of it. But it's still not our passion. Educating, talking like we're talking today, coaching, these things are my passion.
Yes.
Construction in real estate it's a nice thing, but it's just one aspect of what we do.
Yes.
And we had it backwards for a little while, where this was like all we were doing. And then we had this aha moment almost a year ago, where it was like, wait a minute, what are we doing?
Right.
This is not, I didn't sign up to be a builder for the rest of my life. That's not what I signed up for. And so we had to make a shift, and it took time to shift, because we essentially built a business that we didn't want.
built a business on
How about that
building
for
houses.
needing business coaching? I built a business that we didn't want.
Yes.
And then
yes,
it's taken
yes.
several months to unwind that to get back to what is our passion. So we started early in this conversation talking about the DISC assessment. What personality type? There's one piece that complements that, and that is not only do you need to know your personality, you got to really know what it is you really want. Because if you're joining real estate just to make money, you're probably going to fail.
Absolutely.
If you're joining real estate because the commercial looked good about being on the beach in 30 days, first of all, that rarely happens. And second of all, if you're on the beach, it's because you probably had a vacation planned there in advance.
Right.
Because you're probably not going to be retired there in 30 days. And it sounds silly, but some people really do believe that's going to happen.
I know.
And it's just not reality. And the thing is, let's say you did get on the beach in 30 days. If it's not what you really want, are you going to enjoy your beach walk? Probably not. There's no shortage, and we know this, there's no shortage of people that are successful that are miserable.
Wow.
There's plenty of them.
You're absolutely right.
They got the money, they got success,
Yeah.
and they're miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them have even, just Google them, some of them have even taken their own life.
That is something else.
So you better know what it is you really want, and that's a very introspective exercise.
Wow.
So between knowing that and knowing your personality type, now you have the opportunity to be like, I know what I want, this is the type of person I am. Now you can better understand what is it I want to do, how I need to be coached, what I need to be coached at, because now there's congruence within yourself. Remember 80-20 rule?
Yeah, 82, yeah.
Most of the time, 80% of conversations about the house, 20% on mindset. And it's completely backwards. 80% needs to be figuring you out. The house part's easy. Because you might do like Frank did, and you build an entire company around an aspect of real estate that wasn't even your passion.
Wow.
That's real life real estate investing.
That's real life real estate investing.
That is real life. And we will continue to build, but now we understand rehabbing, new construction, it's an aspect of what we do.
Yes.
It is not the core of who we are. And you mentioned a marketing coach. Right now I'm working with a marketing expert right now. Our company that builds this, it's called Skywalk Homes. Feel free to check it out, skywalkhomes.com. You'll see some of the houses we're building. And we're realizing, okay, Skywalk Homes is not Frank, the real estate investor, doing XYZ. It has to be its own brand. And so if I do a small rehab for a little starter home, that's great. But that's not really Skywalk Homes.
Right.
That's just a little fix and flip. Skywalk Homes needs to represent a brand of, hey, this house is representative of what that is.
Absolutely.
It's cool, it's sleek, it's got nice finishes. This particular house is a modern home. And if you actually go to our website, you'll now see we have modern homes, traditional homes.
And the refrigerator has Wi-Fi.
And the refrigerator has freaking Wi-Fi. How cool is that? So, forget selling. I'm putting it in my house.
I know, right?
But exactly, and so now that becomes part of a brand.
Absolutely.
And so that's a combination of the marketing coach establishing the brand and my business coach saying, okay, now how do you take that brand to another level? And now that becomes the message. It's not Frank the home builder, because let's face it, nobody cares who Frank is, and that's okay. Nobody buys Frank the home builder's house. Okay, they buy a brand.
Definitely.
Like, what's the name of the CEO of Nike?
If I was saying, I could. I just read about him in Relentless. What's the guy's name? I can't remember his name.
Now, how many things do you own from Nike?
How many things I own?
Do you own anything from Nike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you don't know the CEO.
I forgot it.
Do you own anything from Adidas?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the CEO?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. But my son has some awesome shoes from Adidas.
From Adidas, right?
I actually told him last night, I was like, we should actually, when you get your first car, because he's driving now, I was like, we should like get a wrap of your first car to match those cool shoes.
Really?
He loved the idea. I was like, shoot, I just committed to $3,000.
I know, right?
But
you get an endorsement deal from Adidas. You better tell them.
I might. I was like, I might call Adidas and be like, hey, we got this cool shoe.
Right.
The shoe costs almost $300.
Wow, yeah.
It's okay. And I'll be like, you know what, that is a cool shoe, but yeah. We'll wrap the car, Adidas. Hey, we'll drive around with the wrapped car, man. Just write me a check. We're good. But all that came together because the real estate coaching helped me with issues with the house. But the marketing coaching is a whole nother conversation.
Absolutely.
Which led to the branding, which was on the business side.
Right.
Well, branding is an extension of the marketing, but it also gets into the business components. And those are things I didn't get from real estate coaching. Those are things I did not get from a YouTube video.
Wow.
These are talking to real life people that I pay real money to give me real information based on other people that have had real success that have come before me.
Great stuff.
So,
Frank, we're at our time, man, but you've shared some great,
I'm
great
just trying
stuff.
to help.
We're definitely going to have to do this again. We're
Okay,
definitely going to
well,
do
no
this again. So, tell the folks when is the next event that you have coming up, and how folks can reach out to you.
So we've got 2 events coming out. On the second Tuesday of this month, we will be doing our wholesale meeting, which we're changing it, I believe, it's now called Hardcore Wholesaling.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, we're changing the name.
Good. That's good.
We needed a shorter name, and it's something fun. And the word well, we're not going to focus on the word hardcore, but we know it evokes an emotion, and we will leave it at that. And so we said, let's go with Hardcore Wholesaling, and that's cool. We're partnered up with Atlanta RIA now on that.
Okay.
Cool. Because I'm a fan of the RIAs. I know sometimes they get a bad rap, but the reality is, it's like anything else. If you join the RIA, all you need to do is meet one person that does one deal, and it changes the game. Absolutely. So, why would you not go meet other investors? So,
True.
So we've partnered up with them, and we're doing that meeting the second Tuesday the fourth Tuesday of the month. So, fourth Tuesday of the month, we'll be doing the wholesale meeting, and then a location. Just if you go to atlantaria.com, it'll be posted there, or the Facebook page for Hardcore Wholesaling, facebook.com/Hardcore Wholesaling, something like that, and we'll post it there. The other event we're doing is on the 4th Thursday of the month. So 4th Tuesday is wholesaling. 4th Thursday, and you need to come to this, we now have a meeting called Marketing Madness.
Oh yeah, I was at the first one.
Okay,
was that
good.
the first one that you did?
We've done 2 so far. We just did one in January.
Okay, I was at the one in January.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we're
great
doing
stuff,
that.
by the way.
Thank you.
Great stuff, by the way.
So that meeting is all about marketing. And the goal of that is to help people understand there's a ton of ways to market, and each meeting will be about one specific way and how to take that and apply it. We're going to be focusing on real estate, but the reality is you could take any of these techniques and apply them to other businesses. So if you're into other businesses as well, you get more bang for your buck.
Right.
But those are the 2 meetings we'll be at. So the 4th week of the month is a busy week for us.
4th Tuesday, Hardcore Wholesaling. 4th Thursday, Marketing Madness.
Yes.
Okay, good stuff. And both of those events are on the Atlanta RIA website?
They'll be on the Atlanta RIA, or you can go to the Facebook page. I think I have to check if there's a Facebook page for Marketing Madness yet. If not, it's about to be created. I know the wholesaling one is there, because all we did was take my group and rebrand it.
Got it. Okay. Good stuff. So how do folks reach out to you? Is there a way to reach? I know you're busy, so you probably have a few different layers. But so if someone wanted to talk to you about coaching or just anything in general, how do they contact you?
So there's 2 ways to get a hold of us. The first is you can always email us at info@workingwithhouses.com. info@workingwithhouses.com. That's one way to do it. You can always message us through the Working with Houses page on Facebook, or you can message me on Facebook. That'll work. I'm on Instagram. Don't tweet to me because I probably won't read it.
Yeah.
But
get to it one day.
I am on Twitter, but I don't really read it that much. But Instagram, I do on occasion read those messages. But the best way is to just call the office, 678-408-2228. Again, 678-408-2228. One other thing I'd like to say is I also have a website, my name, frankiglesias.com, and that's Iglesias for my last name, Frank Iglesias, Iglesias.com. You can go to my website. I talk about coaching there. We're about to be throwing some more resources up there, and so you'll see more and more on that site. But one thing I'd like to add is I do two types of coaching. I do coaching programs, but then I also do a half hour or 1 hour for the people that I really want to pick your brain for just a few minutes. No problem. We can set up a one-time call and do that as well. So.
Got it. And they can find that information on your website?
Right. If you go to my website, frankiglesias.com, you can actually click Schedule Now if you want to do a 30 or 60-minute session to just talk about whatever.
Good stuff. So how much are you selling this house for? Maybe somebody wants to buy it.
Well, this house is it'll be on the market. It's $1,373,000.
Yes.
So if you're interested, we're ready to wheel and deal and put it together. So.
What else you have? I mean, you have some other properties that you have for sale, right?
We have some others for sale.
Okay. Yeah, and they can get that information from you if they call.
So if you go to skywalkhomes.com, you'll see the retail properties that are for sale. Some are finished, some are still under construction. But yeah, it's all on skywalkhomes.com.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much, sir,
Thank you.
for your
Absolutely.
time today. I appreciate it. I know
You're
you got a
welcome.
million other things to do today, so I'm going to get out of your way. So listen, thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. This has been the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, as we discussed today.
That's
and
all
we
we
bring
did.
you real life real estate solutions. Thank y'all for watching, and look forward to seeing you soon.